Hi guys, Michael here from My Performance Health. I'm once again joined with Sam and Jordan. We're doing part 2 of fitness and health myths, where we talk about some questions we get asked, and we just debunk through our experience if they have some truth behind them, and our thoughts breaking them down. All right, so we're going to kick off today a shorter episode just so we can finalize this topic, but let's get into it. First one, Sam, what do we have?
First one is on carbs. So a lot of people negatively view carbs as the direct cause of their fat gain. That's why we see things pop up like keto diets, different diets where we're minimizing carbs as they're seen as quite a bad thing. But we do know that carbs are the main source of energy for the body. So they don't directly cause fat gain. Overeating on carbs can cause weight gain. However, it's not a bad thing. You can't view carbs as something negative. They are used to fuel performance and can be quite a good thing. So we want to get rid of that negative connotation around carbs. And diving into this, carbs, when they come into your body, get broken down by your body and they turn into a thing called glycogen. So this glycogen simply is stored and then used for energy as you move and you use your muscles. And for every one molecule we have of glycogen, that requires 3 molecules of water. So people come in and they might think that eating a lot of carbs will increase their weight and cause weight gain. However, we know that when glycogen in the body is fluctuating, that also water levels within the body is fluctuating, which can create a change in body weight on the scales.
Correct, yeah.
So cutting out carbs is not necessarily required to lose weight. You don't need to completely cut them out. There are different sources of carbs of whole foods like breads, pastas, rice, which can provide us with quite rich and important nutrients as well as energy that we need to perform. So if we have clients come in and we see that they want to significantly decrease their intake of carbs, we would likely see a drop in body weight due to that glycogen and water loss. However, if they're still eating the same amount of food and calories total with changing their carbs that they were eating so they're still eating the same amount of calories without their carbs as they were with their carbs, then we won't necessarily see that body fat percentage and that body fat change. So the weight changes are due to more of that fluid and glycogen loss, not necessarily the body fat dropping.
Cool. Yeah, fantastic. And so just summarize that, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
We eat carbs. They go to glucose in the blood, store it as glycogen. We've got to respect the fact that, yes, it does aid glycogen. And then if we have higher glycogen on a higher carbohydrate diet, and then we go to a lower carbohydrate diet, we're going to remove some of that glycogen and water because we've got 3 parts of that going to be water as well.
Yep.
And then that may also reflect on that weight change, even though calories are the same. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Jordan?
Yeah, you guys pretty much covered that whole thing. But pretty much to put it simply, if you're eating excess carbs or you're eating a lot more carbs than what you need, then you are going to put on fat. But it's just about, again, like anything, managing that balance of what you need to be having versus an excess versus also not enough, because at the end of the day, you want to achieve fat loss, not weight loss. There is a difference there. And also a difference in carbs between your healthier carbs, say your rices and your vegetables versus your Big Macs from McDonald's. That's going to have a different impact as well. So carbs aren't the enemy unless you make them the enemy, really.
Yeah, so let's go a bit deeper with that. And when we have carb, we could have a bowl here filled with pasta. We could have a bowl here filled with sugar. When we eat it, it's going to go in our blood, go towards glucose. The difference, though, is going to be the speed it gets into our blood, right? Because there's a bit more fiber in the pasta. It's simple sugars.
Yeah.
When we have the carbohydrates, we release insulin. Pancreas releases insulin, which is going to regulate the carbohydrates. Now, the thing is, with this day and age, if there's one macro society abuses, we talk about protein, fats, and carbs. Mostly carbs, right? And we run into things like insulin resistance, which means that we don't use the carbohydrates as well. And very simply, I like to think as insulin, we eat our carbs, it goes into our blood, insulin's going to grab it, it's going to move it over to a cell, muscle, liver, fat. We want it mainly to go towards muscle, but if we're insulin resistant and not sensitive, it'll go to liver, but it can only take so much, but then it's going to pile in the body fat. So what we want to do is make sure if we want to eat, and everyone's got a different threshold of carbs. Some people work really good on low carb, some people work really well on high carb, but we want to make sure we're insulin sensitive. We use those carbohydrates in the right way. We also want to make sure if your goal is to drop body fat, we're eating in an energy deficit. So we, once again, improve insulin sensitivity and the way we use those carbs. So carbohydrates are not the enemy. Usually, most of the time, it's going to be your habits, your own habits that are your own enemy. You're your own enemy with them. And definitely the type of carbs too. Now, there's no issue with sugars. But if we excessively use them in the wrong way, there is. If we're having them around training, they can be actually beneficial. We sometimes, recommend to have carbohydrate powder, honey, maple syrup, things like that around the training window. Juices, So, carbohydrates are not necessarily the enemy. Usually people overdo them and overconsume them, and they have, poor insulin health. And that's why they got excess body fat with that. So we want to improve that system, So we have I've had clients on 12,000 calories, eating pancakes every day, gummy bears, chocolate milk, right? Like carbs.
Yeah.
12,000 calories. His output was so high, he was still dropping fat.
Yep.
So if carbohydrates were that bad, he wouldn't be able to eat that much. But we needed to get that in because like you touched on, Sam, they're not essential. We don't need them. We can survive without them, but they are fantastic for performance and energy.
They're a great tool.
Great
if
tool
used
to
correctly.
use, if used correctly.
So as you mentioned, Mick, there's different kinds of carbs. Within our meal plans, we plan through low GI and high GI carbs. Do you mind expanding a bit on the types? So the difference between those two.
So look, back before, and when I say back before, the simple thought of high GI and low GI, we're going to get a difference in fiber. Like I said before with the bowls, the sugar bowl and the pasta bowl, the difference is how quickly it gets in our bloodstream. High GI, usually we absorb a bit quicker, right, versus low GI. Now, when we talk about food choices with that, is low GI, think of it like your brown rices, sweet potatoes. When we talk about white rice, think of white potato, white rice. High GI. Sources, right? So the difference is, how quickly it kind of gets into our blood system. Now, I'm going to go a step beyond that because the whole thing before was like low GI is more healthier because it doesn't spike our blood sugar as much, etc. Mm-hmm. Look, if you have digestive issues, low GI may not be the best because you might find sweet potato causes issues in your digestion. So that mutes that, So, and if we're eating in an energy deficit, that's fine as well. So they're the different types of choices of carbs. We break it in even simple sugars, and we can even break it down in like fructose from fruit and things like that as well. But it's important to get some nutrition literacy on what you're eating. See how you react with it. Do you have any digestive issues with what you're eating? But also, like I touched on before, be specific with your goal. If your goal is to lose body fat, have a nutrition plan you're having, have sources of food that you're eating. Did you lose body fat for that week? And did you feel better? Fantastic. And is your blood work all fine? So yeah, different types of carbs can make a difference. It's not necessarily they're bad or they're the enemy. They just need to be used correctly for you. Yeah, and as simple as eating in an energy deficit will improve your insulin sensitivity, so you can use them better as well. Now, like I said, if you have digestive issues, pathogen, bacteria issues in your digestive system, some carbs may not fit the best, but the problem then isn't the carbs, the problem is the bacteria or pathogen in your stomach you've got to get rid of. Yeah. Sweet. Any thoughts? I love carbs personally. I operate on a low carb diet. I have them mainly around the training window. Pre-training, intra-training, and post.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Perfect. Any questions with that or any final thoughts with that one?
No.
Cool. Let's go on to the next one.
Cool. We're at 150. Keep going.
Yeah.
Our next one is eating fats causes putting on fat.
Yeah, what's your
At
thoughts?
the fat.
So, thoughts on that is there's different kinds of fats. So there's saturated, unsaturated, and trans fats. But fats are essential as well. So fats, we need a certain level of fat within our diet. And directly eating fats won't cause fats, but fats are quite dense and high in calories. So in comparison to a carbohydrate or a protein, which are other macronutrients, they're only 4 calories per gram, whereas fats are around 9 calories per gram. So even little things like dense oils, which you're adding to your foods, and things that are quite high in source of fat can raise the level of calories within your foods, leading to a surplus above your maintenance in what you're eating, which then potentially, yes, can cause fat, but directly eating fats won't necessarily cause.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think we definitely need fats. We need fats for our hormone health. But I think a misconception is people think, oh, I'm eating fat, it goes straight to fat. No, as Sam said, fats are more dense than the carbohydrates and the proteins we're eating. So it would be easier to overeat on those fats for the same kind of quantity as you would carbs and proteins there. So it's just about obviously tracking how much you are eating and not eating in an excess, not eating more than you need to be eating. Fats are very, very important, and they are an essential macronutrient that we need, unlike those carbohydrates, which are a bit less important for our day-to-day life, become more important in athletes, but I think that's another conversation.
Yep.
But no, definitely it's not a case of you eat fat, you're going to get fat.
Yeah, no, I agree. And my thoughts with that is it comes down to, once again, where we're at. Are we in an energy surplus, like we're just eating too much calories, which is putting on body fat? Are we around maintenance? Are we in a deficit? And like I touched on with carbohydrates before, that'll dictate if we are getting fat gain, right? So if we're eating in an energy deficit and we have, moderate protein, moderate carbs, or low carbs, high fats, but you're in a deficit, you're going to lose the body fat. Right? It's not necessarily eating the fat that's going to cause an issue.
And what are the fats that I want to avoid? What are the fats that we should be avoiding?
Yeah, so we got like trans fats,
Yep.
greasy burgers. They're a big one that I'd recommend stay away from. We don't want excess, too much saturated fats.
Yep.
A little bit can be fantastic for things like testosterone levels, for sure, which can be great. And even for pre-training, MCTs, your coconut oils, they're saturated. They can be fantastic too, but like anything else, we want to stay. Fat's a bit different with carbs. Like I said, if simple sugars with carbs can cause issues in excess, trans fats we really want to stay away from.
Yep.
Right? Like I said, with the simple sugars, we can get it in at certain times and it can be very useful. Trans fats we don't want. So fats, we got monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats. They all can help with what Jordan touched on, hormone health, digestion. We can also use them for energy. They have great benefits and they're essential. We need fats in our diet, right, to operate and live. But yeah, we want to stay away from the ones that are pretty nasty. We don't want our cholesterol to come up too high, especially when we talk about the types like LDL to fly up, because then we can run into things like heart health issues and things like that.
Yeah, it's a quality versus quantity
Yeah.
debate as well. Ultimately, if you're keeping with the fats that are naturally occurring, you shouldn't have an issue unless you're eating in excess.
Yeah, so once again, if fats, we're talking about fat puts on fat, look, at the end of the day, it can, if you are eating over excess calories.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily you eat an avocado and then you're fat the next day. It's more so that if you're overeating for that day your calories from every macro, not just fats, you have more likely chance, obviously, to put on body fat, right? Well, you will. If we're under eating and we've got fats in our diet, like if you look at a lot of clients that start with us, we may actually start lower carbohydrate, higher protein, higher fat, and they get lean. Yeah. Fantastic. So we've got fats in their diet. Highly recommend fats that you check out are going to be your avocados, your olive oils, extra virgin olive oils, some nuts as long as you can digest them. There's some great choices of fats that butter. I have butter with my steak, another better way to do it. I'm a big fan of healthy fats, and especially if your goal is vitality and longevity, I think respecting and looking into that for yourself can actually pay off dividends for the long run with health as well. Yeah. Cool. Any other thoughts with that one? Fats puts on fats, or we put that one to bed?
Yeah, I think it's
Put
great.
that to bed.
Yeah, so to summarize those, and that'll be it for this episode, I feel, for part 2. But at the end of the day, we've touched on a common thing. Excess calories, surplus, will put on body fat with both, whether it's carbs or the fats you're eating. So understanding that calories matter with weight gain, weight loss, or even maintaining weight. Your macros will dictate your body composition as well. But and when I say macros, your protein, fats, carbs, etc. If you eat too many of those fats, carbs, and go beyond that point of calories, you will put on body fat. But it's not the macro itself.
It's like filling up a cup. If you have a cup there, you pour water. At some point, if you don't stop, it's going to spill over.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think it's very simple to point the fingers at these things. But once again, more so, this is why we always have a consult. We review our clients' lifestyle, their behaviors, and really where we paint the picture of is, hey, maybe we're not losing because you've got too much calories coming in. We're not maybe not even tracking it properly. And your training's okay, you got output, but this is the area to focus on. So it's important.
It's human nature to blame something.
Yeah.
So we can blame carbs, we can blame fats, but at the end of the day, we need to have a look at ourselves. Okay, am I eating what I need to be eating? Am I eating over? And that's where you find the answer of, I'm putting on fat. Everything else,
And knowledge is important. Like, we go through this, we study, we learn, we apply. Not everyone gets that opportunity. So they're only stuck with the knowledge and literacy for nutrition they know, and that's why it's our job to help them. So if you're not in the game and you don't know and you haven't focused on it, this may be the belief you're stuck on, because you haven't learned that next level. Hence why we're doing podcasts like this. Cool. Great topic, fantastic. This is part 2 of the health and fitness myths. Anything else, guys, to summarize it? You pretty happy? Sam, you happy?
Sweet.
Yeah, perfect. So guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope you got some value out of this one. Like I said, part 2. You can check out part 1 if you haven't seen it yet before in our podcast library. If you ever need help, like I said, the problem with your progress may be your current knowledge and skill set. Maybe that's what's stopping you. If you need help to take that to the next level so you can get consistent, break through plateaus and actually see progress, reach out to our team. You can go to www.mindperformancehealth.com.au, book in a quick call. We always have a quick chat just to see what goal you're looking for, see if it's a great fit. Then we can book in a consult and start to map out a game plan so you can achieve results. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one.